Uber rares. They are some of the strongest units in the game, with massive damage, health, and very long status effects for the most part. But what if I were to tell you that a unit like this exists, is free, and is unlocked relatively early in the game? Ladies and gentlemen, may I present to you Bahamut Cat, and why Bahamut Cat is the king of the battle cats. Bahamut Cat's role is meant to be a nuker, low DPS but massive total damage when attacking. While his health isn't the greatest, his attack is extremely strong. His damage is so high that most units that can deal more damage than him are either single target, targets only, have multi-hits, or are melee attackers. Bahamut Cat, even at level 1, is still very strong for when you first unlock him. Most of your units when you unlock Bahamut Cat are probably only dealing a few thousand damage per hit at most. Bahamut's attack is 12,500 at level 1. It only gets better as you level him up, to where he gets his health to 18,000 and his damage to a staggering 60,000 damage at level 20. Lastly, I will talk about his level 30 stats, which give him 25,500 health and a colossal 85,000 damage. Most Uber rares don't even deal this much damage, and some can only surpass him because they have the advantage of being able to go past this level. Bahamut's range is 450, which allows him to outrange the majority of the enemies in this game, including Arost, the Face, Teacher Bear, and Lenore as examples. This is very important since most of the non-Uber rares in this game don't go past 300 range. I do want to point out, however, that he's outranged by Master A by one singular range point, and I like to call this Bahamut Syndrome, where a unit that would normally be good against an enemy is outranged by said enemy by a very small range margin. Bahamut's 3 knockbacks also allow him to reposition himself when he's in danger, so your meat shields can close the gap to protect him for longer. All of these amazing abilities do come at somewhat of a price, costing 4,500 cents. However, the power he can bring can single-handedly win the level. With such a beastly unit, there are some downsides that do come with him. Because he has a long startup time when he's attacking, he can easily miss an attack. This can be bad news because Bahamut only attacks every 20 seconds. For example, if you were fighting against a Rain D or a Teacher Bear, you would want Bahamut to hit these enemies, but due to their high knockback numbers, he can easily miss his attack. This can also be a problem because your cat army might be able to advance a lot farther than you would expect, causing Bahamut to miss his attack. For examples, in the stage Dark Souls, while you're trying to constantly keep back the crazed cat, Bahamut can end up missing an attack due to him constantly being knocked back. Well, just how important is Bahamut Cat to the game? If you were to ask me, I think Bahamut Cat is the most important unit in the game that isn't the Eraser Twins. Bahamut's literal uber rare stats make it so most levels are even possible in the first place in the early game. For example, Crazed Cat would be a whole ton harder for newer players if it weren't for Bahamut. Bahamut is able to take out both of the backliners when they get close to him. Another example is Urarun Wolf. Her massive range along with the high DPS enemies that are featured in her stage like Shadowboxer K and Born means having a source of high damage to take out a chunk of their health is vital. Bahamut being able to take out a tenth of Urarun's health with each hit means that he can make the fight a lot more possible. If I listed every time Bahamut was vital to beating an early mid-game stage, this video would be way too long, so to keep it short, his uber-like stats for a free unit are vital for the game as to give the player a way to even beat many of the early game stages. But what if he was even stronger? Let me introduce to you Awakened Bahamut. Awakened Bahamut is the definition of a must-have unit. Bahamut trades his range for speed, faster recharge, unmatched damage potential, and nearly unmatched DPS. Awakened Bahamut is unlocked after beating Chapter 3 of Into the Future and getting Bahamut Cat to level 20. He also now has a multi-attack. At level 30, his multi-hit damage values are as follows: 85,000, 3,400, and 5,100. Each attack is almost instant, so if the enemy isn't knocked back, he could deal a total of 93,500 damage. His recharge also goes from 151.2 seconds to only 97.87 seconds. This recharge time is 35.3% faster, meaning that you're able to get him back in a lot sooner than usual. His speed also is increased by 10 times, from going at 6 speed to 60 speed, making Awakened Bahamut one of the fastest units in the game, and the only other non-uber rare units with high speeds like this that you will use regularly is Express Cat. This upgrade changes Bahamut from a nuker to a rusher. Luckily for us, there's another unit who does a similar job to Awakened Bahamut that we can compare to, Immortal Yukimura. We will be comparing Awakened Bahamut and an untalented Yukimura at their level 30 stats. While Yukimura does beat Bahamut in the health department by 3,400, which isn't much of a victory since both units will probably die at the same time, is 15 points faster, is 2/3 the cost, and recharges faster by almost a minute. Bahamut beats out Yukimura by knockbacks, which are vital for a rusher unit to maximize damage output as their attack animations are reset every time they're knocked back. Bahamut has 30 more range, which to be honest doesn't really mean much, and Bahamut beats out Yukimura by raw damage DPS. Whereas Yukimura only deals 50,490 damage if not attacking black enemies, Bahamut deals almost twice as much and has about 3 times the DPS. While Yukimura is better when dealing with black enemies, Bahamut is a better generalist rusher. If you have both of these units, however, they work together extremely well and even have a combo with Manic Lion to increase the massive damage ability to increase Yukimura's damage against black enemies. To discuss a Bahamut's true power, we have to talk about just how many enemies can crumble due to his raw damage. Master A, Crazed Bahamut's arch nemesis, can now easily be swiped away in a few hits if he isn't guarded. The Dragon Twins have huge ranges that are useful for dealing with Arost, but Bahamut can just easily close the distance and deal massive amounts of damage. And remember, if Bahamut is knocked back, his attack animation starts over again, allowing him to just keep swiping away at them. If you time it right, you can delete almost half of Arost's health with an Awakened Bahamut. This is something that is great to utilize in a stage like Realm of Carnage. Like with the previous section, I don't want to just list every single enemy that can crumble to the power of Bahamut's immense power, so just to keep it short, his speed and raw DPS means that he can easily delete a great chunk of an enemy's health. The key thing about any rusher unit is being able to time their rollout at the right time so they can maximize their damage output. Being able to know an enemy's time patterns, especially on fast attacking enemies like Arost, Master A, and Rain D. I will use this to segue into some of the negatives of Awakened Bahamut. Awakened Bahamut, due to changing how he operates as a unit from a nuker to a rusher, means that you have to be a lot more careful when sending him out into battle, as a missed timing with Bahamut means you just lost your 4,500 cents that you sent him out into battle, but this is a general negative with rusher units. Specifically for Bahamut, however, is that if you don't have many ranged attackers by the time you do get Awakened Bahamut, which is highly unlikely, then I would suggest waiting until you have a ranged attacker like Urun Wolf. One more negative about Awakened Bahamut is the fact that he struggles when it comes to fighting enemies that can inflict status effects, like Professor A and Ost. Both have high attack rates and outrange Awakened Bahamut by a huge amount and can afflict the slow status, which can absolutely cripple him as he essentially becomes cannon fodder for the enemies. However, all of these negatives can easily be played around with your other units in game skill and knowledge. So what can we conclude from this analysis of Bahamut? Bahamut's immense strength in both forms, as a rusher and a nuker, means that his strength is way too valuable to pass up 99% of the time. There are only a few stages in the game where having Bahamut on your team is a detriment to your battle strategy. While Bahamut does have his counters in both forms, knowing when to use the ranged nuker form and the high DPS rusher means that you'll be able to get so much mileage from Bahamut's pure power. That is why Bahamut Cat is the king of the Battle Cats. If you enjoy this analysis of Bahamut, why not give it a like? Want to add something to the discussion? Why not leave a comment down below? And if you enjoy the content on this channel, consider subscribing because it helps me out immensely, and that's what cool people do. Anyways, have a great day everyone.